Hello, everyone. Oh, there we go. Welcome. Everybody can hear me in the back? Excellent, excellent. Is everybody having a good time today at the Hickory Women's Expo? This is the first one? Yeah? Yeah? What do you think we should do it again? Yeah, all right. It's kind of the consensus, and we were very, very grateful that you are all here today. I'm Kate Dillon. I am one of the organizers, and actually my brother in the back of the room, maybe my niece can raise her hand. There she is. We're a family affair here. There is my brother. Raise your hand, Jimmy. And we have to give some props to Jimmy, because in order to do research for this show, we went to the Atlanta Women's Expo, where he was probably one of maybe 3 men in the building, and I think the other 2 were janitors. So so big props. Jimmy's been a big part of all the ideas and putting everything together for this show. We work together, but it's not just me. I just get to be on the stage because, well, it's the women's show, and here I am. So, but today I'm very, very excited to welcome our next speaker to the stage. I met Catherine at some of the networking events here in Hickory, and she is probably the best dressed person I have met in this entire town here. She's always so stylish. But beyond that, she is also a life coach, and she has a deep understanding of the human condition, and she has a natural talent really for connecting with people. And I can say that from a personal standpoint. It's just nice to be able to connect, and you have those right people in your life. And it obviously you can tell that it really comes naturally to her, and she really has an ability to identify and address the destructive thought patterns that hold her clients back from living their best lives. She is multiversatile, and I'm very happy to welcome Catherine Lundberg to the stage. So welcome, Catherine.
Thank you, Kate, and thank you, everybody, for being here today. It's hard to float when you feel like you are drowning. I realize that the title of my talk seems a little bit negative and depressing, but I assure you it's not, and if you stay until the very end, you will understand why. But for now, I'd like to begin with a little visualization. I'd like you all to close your eyes. It's a beautiful day at the beach. You decide to go for a swim, and once you are in the ocean, gazing back toward the shoreline, you lie back in the water, close your eyes, and begin to float. You are suspended in the water, and it takes absolutely no effort on your part whatsoever. You can feel the sun warming your face, and you are completely peaceful. All of the noise disappears. It's as if you're floating in the amniotic fluid in your mother's womb. Complete peace, a state of bliss. And then, just for a brief second, quickly, you feel something brush up against your leg. You jump upward out of your reclined position, and your eyes dart in the water around you. You're treading water frenetically, and your heart is beating out of your chest. Do you make a mad dash for the safety of the shore? What is going through your mind? The peaceful experience is gone, and you are now in panic mode. Even if this has never happened to you in your life, I am sure you can relate in one form or another. We've all been cruising along in life when out of the blue something touches your leg, and the perfect peace that you've been experiencing is shattered by fear. Life is like that. We are all vulnerable to changing thoughts and emotions that can rock our world. I would like you to raise your hand if you've experienced one of the following things: a health scare, chronic pain, the loss of a loved one, financial setbacks, a critically ill child, betrayal, aging parents, relationship troubles, or even fractures such as a divorce. Now, those of you who raised your hands previously, I'd like you to raise your hands again And take a look around this room. You're not alone. We've all gone through or are currently experiencing difficult circumstances in life. Circumstances like these take us out of balance and put us in a position of complete discomfort where we have a choice to make. Do I sit in the victim seat and play woe is me and blame everyone, including myself, and become bitter? Or do I choose to experience the pain and discomfort and use it for my growth and become a better person? Will I use this experience to make me stronger, wiser, more empathetic, and resourceful? Because life is not a dress rehearsal. We only have one shot at it. It may seem like it's going at Mach speed, or conversely, at a snail's pace, depending on your circumstances. I remember when I was a young mom with 2 kids in diapers. My mom had just had a stroke, and she too was in a diaper. And this was on the coattails of losing my father the previous year. It felt like I would be stuck in that season of life forever. But then I blinked. And now I'm an early 60-year-old woman living clear across the country where I never thought I'd be in my wildest dreams. Now it seems like the time's going so quickly that if I allow myself to believe it, the time I have left is very short. What happened in between was a series of life events that have defined my character and have formed me into the person I am today. You see, I became a life coach because I felt like I was stepping into my calling. I wanted to use the difficult times of my life, which there have been many, to ask this one question: are there others around me who are struggling with a similar woundedness? And how can I use what I've learned to help them? I would like to share my background story in order to illustrate how important it is to navigate life in a way where you don't feel like you're being tossed to and fro by the unwelcome circumstances that intersect your life. I was born and raised in Santa Barbara, California. It was a fairly idyllic childhood. That's me on the right. I had older parents who were already retired somewhat comfortably. But everything changed during the stock market crash in the 70s. My dad had worked for General Electric and acquired quite a bit of stock, but during the crash he panicked and sold the stock for pennies on the dollar. Our comfortable life as I knew it did a huge 180. As a young child, I had no control over my financial situation, but I did have the ability to exercise gratitude and avoid having a scarcity mindset. I lost my father in 1996 when my firstborn was just 1 year old. A year later, my mother had a stroke a month after my second son was born. I was her primary caregiver for the 2 years preceding her death. It was extremely challenging having 2 children under the age of 3, and their father traveled quite a bit on business, so I was on my own about 75% of the time. I was left with a choice. Do I allow my circumstances to overwhelm me and become anxious and bitter? Or do I find the joy in life despite difficult circumstances? Just as a side note, in hindsight, I am so glad that I did everything I could to make the remainder of my mother's life comfortable. I don't think anyone ever looks back and thinks, I wish I hadn't done so much for my parents. We always wish that we could have done more, and my heart goes out to all of you who are currently experiencing a similar trial. Fast forward to December 2003. My then husband, or wasband as I like to call him, and I moved from California to Oregon in order to raise our boys in a less affected environment. At that time, our marriage was unstable for many reasons. By 2009, we made the difficult decision of parting ways. It was not amicable. In fact, his parting words to me were, I am going to destroy you. And he darn near did. But that's a story for another time. Nonetheless, it's part of my story. For the second time since the death of my parents in my early 30s. I had a choice to make, bitter or better. Playing the blame and shame game did not aid me in the healing process, so I chose to be responsible for my part in the demise of the marriage, grab on to the lessons that I had learned, and move forward. In January of 2020, I met this really cute guy from North Carolina who is also a tennis player. He was out west working for Corning for a month. I almost didn't go out with him when I realized he was from the East Coast. At 58 years of age, I really had no intention of remarrying, and I thought, what's the point? But my heart and my intuition told me a different story. We ended up seeing as much of each other as possible before he went back to Hickory mid-February. The plan was he'd be out my way frequently, working on Corning's contract with Facebook. And then COVID hit. The whole world came to a screeching halt. At that time, I had a 39-year career in the salon industry that afforded me a six-figure income. However, I hadn't saved a lot of money because the cost of living out there is really high, and I had just finished paying for a college education for my oldest child. The salon shut down for over 12 weeks, and my income was gone. Where there's a will, there's a way. Mark and I managed to see each other a total of 85 days that year, traveling back and forth in almost empty planes. In hindsight, this never would have happened unless I was forced not to work. It was surreal dating someone when there was nowhere for us to go because everything was closed down. I learned to do the best I can with what I have, where I am. During that time, I also learned to play cornhole, and I got really good at ping pong. The rest of 2020, when I was home alone in Oregon, and I mean completely alone, I lived on an 80-acre horse farm, and it was just me, the horses, and my little Yorkie poo, Kai. I had way too much time to think, and I did a lot of journaling, reflecting, and praying. In the winter, I hiked and snowshoed, and in the summer, I turned in my snowshoes for my paddleboard. I did my best thinking in nature. It became extremely clear to me that since my divorce, I had been living life on autopilot. I did the same things over and over again each day. There was a level of comfort that I had built for myself, a world that was safe, predictable, and foolproof. Or at least I thought it was foolproof until I had my ability to earn income ripped out from underneath me with no safety net. All of that reflective time led me to the conclusion that the reason I had stayed in the salon industry for 40 years were the relationships that I had formed with my clients. I could do hair blindfolded, and I had become a color expert in my region. But the creative outlet with hair wasn't what brought me deep joy anymore. It was the conversations I had with my clients. Each appointment was like participating in the unfolding of their lives. I would problem solve, commiserate, laugh, and cry with each of them. Yes, it was in the doing life together that made me realize the next chapter of my life was to become a certified life coach. And that is where I focused the majority of my energy for the remainder of 2020. When was the last time that you did a mental audit of your life? Have you thought about what is working and what no longer serves you, and what needs to change to live the life you have in a more fulfilling way? Have you taken the time to reflect and really be intentional about strategizing who you want to be and what you want to do as your future self? And if you do know what it is that you want, do you know how to get from where you are to where you want to be? And if not, why not? So many people get wrapped up in their daily obligations that they don't take the time to even think about if it's what they want to do. They just do it. COVID ended up being a huge blessing for me. It afforded me the time I needed to reflect on my life, up to that point and make a quality decision to make the necessary changes to craft a better life for myself. When Christmas of 2020 arrived, Mark asked me to move to North Carolina. In February of 2021, I said goodbye to every last client, friend, my source of income, and most importantly, my adult children. There were a lot of tears that week before I got on that plane. I became a resident of Hickory, North Carolina, and immediately I set out to create a community for myself. I joined our local chamber, found a church, joined a tennis team, and started volunteering at Safe Harbor. I opted against employment in the hair industry, which had always been quite lucrative, in favor of pouring myself into building Clarity Life Coaching. It was what I felt deeply convicted to do. I poured my heart and soul into my new life because I knew the importance of going all in. When you make a decision to do something, you've got to do it with everything that you have. Don't be half-hearted. I had to do a lot of deep work in order to be at peace with a staggering sense of loss I've experienced. Starting over with a new business in midlife is not for the faint of heart. I miss my friends and spending time with them because they knew me best and they were always there for me. In addition, Mark travels a lot, so there have been times of great loneliness. But most of all, I miss seeing my adult children on a regular basis. Oh, not to mention, 3 major surgeries and recoveries. Most recently, including back surgery in July of 2023, followed up with a total hysterectomy last October. I have never in my life felt so vulnerable. But guess what? These are the circumstances in life where I had the choice to grow and to flourish or to drown in discouragement and give up. Float or drown. Victim or victor. I choose victor. And I'm happy to say, after an 18-month absence, I'm also back on the tennis courts playing the sport I love so much. Mark and I married in May of 2022. I wish I could say it has been happily ever after, but it's been hard. There are major cultural differences we've had to navigate. We have had to learn to live and let live and not try to change the other person. And let's just say, he's not going to eat kale salad ever, and I'm not going to like his greasy diners. I've had to learn that sarcasm is a form of endearment and humor. And even though I still really don't like it, it's okay, because mutual respect and unconditional love will prevail. I share these pieces of my personal story to illustrate what I have learned through my hardships. If we wait until the circumstances in our lives are all good, for the stars to align to be happy, we're going to miss out in the magic of life. It's the floating. It's a choice. By taking my thoughts captive, I've learned to make a deliberate choice to be happy in the moments of chaos, uncertainty, and pain, and to know that these are the times that shape my character and make me the person that God intends for me to be. If we miss it, we're going to be disillusioned by life, resigned to complacency and mediocrity, and miss the miracle of each moment, which is really all that we have. We're not guaranteed tomorrow, and there's nothing we can do about yesterday, but we can choose what we do now, how we respond to what today brings. So, what does it look like to respond in a way that reflects who we are authentically? It starts with examining our thought lives by taking a deep dive into looking at our habits of thinking. We can identify where our thoughts are leading us astray. Why? Because our thoughts lead to emotions. How we feel about what we are thinking. Our emotions, if out of alignment with what is reality, can take us down a path we really don't want to go and cause us to behave in ways that don't let us show up as our best selves. A perfect example of this. How many times have you behaved badly from behind the wheel of your car? Maybe you addressed a fellow driver as an idiot, or perhaps even words more colorful than that, because their driving skills don't match up to what you thought. I see you smiling, to what you thought they should be. Anybody? It's not just me, I know that for sure. Here's a fun one I'm going to tell on myself. About 10 months ago, I was waiting in line to pay for my groceries, and I noticed a young woman in the line next to mine staring at me. And without taking her eyes off of me, she leans over to whisper something in her partner's ear. I was so offended. I couldn't imagine what she was saying. But I was convinced it was something really rude, and she was a real you-know-what. She must have seen the look on my face and decided to immediately diffuse the situation, because she smiled broadly and said, "I was just telling my husband how pretty I thought you were." I was so embarrassed, and I could not have been more wrong. You see, our habits of thinking, when at risk, can really get us into trouble. They can cause more upset, catastrophizing, and anxiety over things that probably didn't or will never happen. Moreover, they can cause us to react in a way that isn't in line with our character and our values. Have you ever reviewed your day and thought to yourself, now why did I say that? Or why did I do that? So now that you have a better understanding of how our thoughts can hijack our emotions and change our behavior, I would be remiss in not mentioning that 90% of our thoughts go unnoticed. That's right, they're subconscious. So how do you identify those? I'm glad that you asked, because I spent the first half of this year receiving a second coaching certification that addresses that very issue. Habit Finders is an organization that trains coaches to help you create an awareness of your thought life in order to change the habits of thinking that are keeping you from living your best life. We use an assessment that mathematically measures your patterns of thinking, and the results show you where these thoughts are showing up in a way that is either helpful or harmful. The assessment is free, and it only takes 15 minutes. You get your results immediately, and once you have them, you can schedule a debrief where we can go over your results in order to get a better understanding of how your thoughts are holding you back in all areas of your life. Unlike the DISC, the Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, or so many of the other assessments that are used today, this is not a personality test or a temperament test. Those can be radically altered by what you choose to allow others to see. It is important to bear in mind that you are not your thoughts. Thoughts are situational, and they vary depending on what is currently happening in your life. They can also be triggered by past trauma that can affect your behavior. Can you imagine how useful it will be to have an understanding of how your thoughts create an unwanted emotion or behavior? So that visualization that we did earlier when you were floating oh so peacefully in the ocean, you got it. It's a product of your thinking habits. I'm pretty sure most of you went to a worst case scenario like a jellyfish or a shark. I doubt many of your thoughts were a sexy version of Aquaman coming to tell you how beautiful you look floating in the sunshine. Although that would be very nice, especially if it were Jason Momoa. Here is a chart that illustrates how we show up in life. On the right is what it looks like to show up operating out of your false self. This is when we fall prey to the negative, aren't mindful of our habits of thinking. She is ego-driven. She's protective and inauthentic. She is defensive, hides her insecurities, and acts out of her ego. She can lack awareness and be judgmental. She can be envious, resentful, and yes, even hateful. She's indifferent to the needs of others, self-protective, self-serving, and overall pretty miserable. On the left is what it looks like to operate from our true selves. This is coming from a place of love. She knows her true identity, and she's grounded in it. She is willing to be vulnerable, true, and open. She isn't afraid to acknowledge doubts. She's strong and she's resilient. She's aware of the needs of others and has an abundance mindset. Therefore, she's very generous with others. She's also forgiving, overflowing with love and compassion. She is protective of others and loves serving others. She's filled with joy. I don't know about you, but I want to be that person. It takes a lot of practice and hard work daily. But can you think of anything more worthwhile than showing up in life and to the world around you in this way? Can you already think of a person you know who is doing so? And how does it feel to be around them? If you are serious about making these types of changes in your own life and reaping the benefits in your personal and professional relationships, please take one of my brochures before leaving today. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys pass them. As you walk around this expo in search of that next thing, that next shot of dopamine, that elusive something that will make you feel a bit better about yourself as a person, I want you to think long and hard about this important question. What one thing, if it changed, would make your life so much better? I'm not just talking about losing weight or getting a new outfit or some filler or some Botox. I mean that thing that you've been living with for so long because addressing it just feels too hard. Yeah, that. What would your life look like if it was no longer an issue? And how would that make you feel? We all face moments that knock us off balance and force us to make a choice. Will we let fear or bitterness take over, or will we rise above and use our challenges as stepping stones to growth? Sink or swim? These are pivotal moments that define our character. Will we choose to be the hero of our own story or get stuck playing the victim? Life is like a choose-your-own-adventure book. It's up to us to write the next chapter. So, next time your life throws you a curveball, remember to float like a boss, handle those unexpected touches with grace, and choose to be the victor of your story. Because in the end, it's not about the challenges we face, but it's about how we navigate them that truly defines us. Now, who's ready to ride the waves of life with style and resilience? Let's do this. I have a few extra moments if anyone has a question. Is there anybody that would like to ask me something? Nobody? Don't be shy. Okay. Well, I would like to end my time today asking you guys a favor. Would you please take a moment to scan the QR code on this screen and answer a short survey on how you thought I did this afternoon? As a thank you, if you should choose to do so, I will send you the link to the assessment, and you can also schedule a free debrief session with me. Also, if you know of anyone who you think would benefit from hearing this message, please invite them to come back tomorrow at 2 p.m. when I will be presenting it once more. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the Women's Expo.